Parasita and Danilo Valdez got home from work on what felt like any other quiet, late spring Saturday evening. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. They were expecting to walk through the door and find their daughter Jastine at home, like always. Maybe scrolling on her phone. Maybe already asking what was for dinner. But the house was silent. Too silent. They tried calling her. No answer. Again. Still nothing. Parasita checked her phone and scrolled through their messages, and that's when it hit her. The last time she'd heard from Jastine was at 4:20 p.m. All she'd asked was something simple. Something normal. "Can you pick up some bread on your way home?" At the time, there was absolutely no reason to think that would be their final conversation. No warning signs, no bad feeling. Just a mother asking her daughter to grab bread. But what happened after that moment wouldn't just devastate their family, it would haunt Ireland forever. Before we get into what happened to Jastine, you need to understand the setting. This all unfolded in Enniskerry, a village about 30 minutes south of Dublin. Picture perfect, the kind of place tourists love. Filmmakers too. Postcard views, quiet roads, and the kind of calm where nothing bad ever feels like it could happen. For the Valdez family, it was just another ordinary Saturday. Parasita and Danilo went to work like they always did, leaving Jastine to go about her day. Both parents worked at Charlesland House, where they also lived. Parasita worked as a housekeeper. Danilo was a groundsman. They'd moved from the Philippines to Ireland, looking for a better life. And after gaining Irish citizenship, Jastine joined them in 2013. She embraced it completely. She was studying accountancy at IT Tallaght. She worked 2 jobs, one as a part-time care assistant and another as a waitress in Bray. She had a boyfriend, Joseph Squire, and they'd been together for about 6 months. People described her as warm, energetic, grateful. She loved her family deeply and genuinely appreciated the opportunities Ireland had given them. By all accounts, she was happy. That happiness ended on May 19th, 2018. That Saturday, Jastine had an appointment at 2 p.m. with an immigration officer at Burr Cay, Garda Station, to renew her residency permit. Throughout the day, she stayed in constant contact with her mom on Facebook Messenger. They were incredibly close. 63 messages exchanged that day alone. After her appointment, Jastine went for a quick workout at Ben Dunn's gym in Cherrywood Business Park. Afterward, she stopped at a shop and picked up the loaf of bread her mom had asked for. Just a normal errand. Just another step toward home. At 5:40 p.m, CCTV captured her boarding the 185 bus in Bray. 20 minutes later, she arrived in Enniskerry. From there, she started the familiar 15 to 20 minute walk home along the R760 Kilcroney Road. She'd taken that route countless times before. It was still bright out. The sun was shining. Nothing about the moment felt dangerous. What Jastine didn't know was that a dark-coloured SUV had been following her. As she walked along Kilcroney Road toward Charlesland House, the SUV pulled over. Witnesses later reported seeing a white male approach her and suddenly punch her in the face. No warning, no argument, just violence. He dragged the stunned, disoriented Jastine into the vehicle and sped off. If this had happened somewhere quieter, maybe no one would have noticed. But it was still daylight. People were around. Several witnesses saw the abduction, and at least 2 called Gardaí almost immediately. Then came another chilling sighting. One witness described seeing an SUV stopped on the road.
"I saw a car stopped on the road with no lights and no blinkers. The door of the boot was open. I heard shouting. She was sitting at the edge of the boot, looking out at me. I saw an Asian face with dark hair. The shouting turned to screaming. I heard a deep male voice shouting angrily. I began to feel there was something very wrong."
When Gardaí arrived at the abduction site, they found Jastine's shopping bag lying on the ground. Inside was the loaf of bread. Nearby, her smashed phone. Within 15 minutes, 3 patrol cars were dispatched. A Garda helicopter joined the search. At 6:20 p.m, another motorist reported seeing an Asian woman in the back of an SUV heading toward the N11. The driver, Gareth Thompson, said the woman appeared distressed, sitting awkwardly, waving both hands. "She looked scared," he said, "like she needed help." But at that point, Garda E didn't even know who they were looking for. It wasn't until 11:40 p.m. that Parasita and Danilo officially reported Jastine missing. They'd already been worried. The unanswered calls, the silence. But when they noticed a helicopter circling Enniskerry, their fear turned into certainty. Something was very wrong. By 4 a.m, Garda E caught a major break. CCTV footage from a Dublin bus stop near the abduction site showed the suspect vehicle, a Nissan Qashqai. The license plate was traced to a woman named Nuala Hennessy from Bray. When Garda E spoke to her, she told them her husband, Mark Hennessy, had taken the car and hadn't come home. She managed to reach him by phone around 8 a.m. When she asked where he was, he said he'd slept in the car by the seafront. When she asked when he was coming home, he said one word: soon. Mark Hennessy was in his 40s, worked as a banksman on construction sites, and had 2 young daughters. On the surface, he looked like a normal, middle-class family man. The kind of guy no one would ever suspect. But that image didn't hold up. Garda E quickly learned his marriage was falling apart. He was drowning in debt. He'd been using Tinder to meet other women. He had a serious cocaine habit. A whole hidden life, kept carefully away from family and friends. Still, people were shocked. No one described him as violent, just awkward, quiet, a regular dad. That changed when a witness named Christina Connolly spotted the Nissan Qashqai and followed it to a car park at Cherrywood Industrial Estate. She called Garda E while tracking him, noticing he kept checking his rear-view mirror. He knew he was being watched. At around 8 p.m, armed Garda E arrived. Mark was inside the car. Possibly Jastine too. They approached carefully, ordering him to exit. He refused. Instead, he pulled out a Stanley knife and slashed his left wrist from elbow to palm. Blood everywhere. Garda E shouted for him to drop the knife. He didn't. Then he raised the blade to his neck. What happened next was chaotic. A bright flash. A gunshot. Mark slumped over the steering wheel. Garda E rushed in, pulled him out, and attempted life-saving measures, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 8:38 p.m. Jastine wasn't in the car. Inside the vehicle, Garda E found a blood-stained piece of paper with barely legible words. Saw and Puck's Castle. Puck's Castle is a 16th century ruin surrounded by dense woodland, beautiful by day, terrifying by night. Search teams combed the area. On Monday morning they found Jastine's handbag, and later that afternoon they found her body hidden in thick gorse and undergrowth. She'd been dead for days. The autopsy confirmed the worst. She was manually strangled. She had bruises and abrasions across her body. Cocaine was found in her system. Whether she was sexually assaulted couldn't be conclusively determined, but signs strongly suggested it.
You know, I have a daughter of similar age. I'm Irish, and I really feel it very, very, very deeply, and I'm sure everybody else does. So, you know, for the family themselves, I just don't understand how they could deal with it. You know, their only child. It's just quite tragic.
Gardaí are now conducting a murder investigation, but with the only suspect now dead, the file being prepared will most likely be for the coroner's court rather than the Central Criminal Court. They're also investigating Mark Hennessy's background. He had convictions for public order and drugs offences and was due in court next month to face a drink driving charge. They will compare his DNA as part of a wider inquiry to see if he's linked to any previous or historical sexual assaults or attacks on women.
Gardaí believe Jastine was killed within hours of her abduction. Mark Hennessy never spoke. He took the truth with him. Jastine's parents later found a letter she'd written, thanking them for everything, for her life, for their love. She was just walking home, in daylight, on a road she trusted. And that's what makes this case so terrifying. Life doesn't always warn you. Sometimes it just changes forever in a moment.